Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Simple Living, High Thinking. It's been a few weeks, so the name escaped me for half a second. Hi, Tadeo. Thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm doing well, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. Well, we are doing the entire chapter 12 today since we took a little break. So there's probably a good chunk of context that you'd like to give today. What does the listener need to know?
Uh, Something that Tukaram brought up in class, which I think context-wise is very interesting, is that chapter 11 could seem to be the top of the Bhagavad Gita because Krishna reveals himself in a way that is, according to even Krishna, very difficult to see, that nobody has seen before. And it really bewilders Arjuna's mind, the universal form, right? And that has a connotation with Christianity in the um, beatific vision. Is that how we say it? When you have a vision
Hmm.
of Christ. And this there's that similarity here where we are seeing Krishna in a way that is very special, right? Krishna is revealing himself to us as he is the being that has within himself the entire universe. So it's something very, very special. And Arjuna gets really bewildered in many different ways, and his hair is standing on end. So you can say that you could think the Gita is leading up to this. And then Krishna reveals himself as the Almighty God, the one that has the entire universe within himself. And that has a certainly a very strong excitement to it. And then Tukaram brought up that there was this particular religious scholar who commented on the Gita by saying that chapter 12 must be the biggest letdown in all of religious history, scriptures. And obviously Tukaram, had his opinion, which differs from that. And I think it's worthwhile noting that because if we are reading Gita for the first time, you may get that impression. Well, chapter 11, the universal form is the highest. And chapter 12 then starts by Arjuna asking a question which seems to have been covered already. Seems like Krishna had already spoken about it and or certainly implied. And so Arjuna starts the chapter by asking Krishna, hey, Krishna, of the two types of devotees, the most prominent types of devotees, one being those that worship you in the impersonal way, and those that worship you in a personal way, more directly. Of these two, which one is best? It does seems to be a little bit mysterious. Like, why would Arjuna ask this question? Certainly, our Krishna seems to have already at least implied which one would be best, and why is Arjuna asking this question again? And so, coming in the heels of chapter 11, which was so exciting, Krishna is revealing himself in a way that is amazing. To then turn to chapter 12 and Arjuna asking this question that seems to be, well, why haven't you gotten the point yet? It seems to be a letdown, even according to this religious scholar, right? Oh, is the biggest letdown in all of religious history. It's like, wow, really? Like you're really putting the chapter down. But that shows so aligned even with Arjuna's questions, right? Like, are you the devotees that are impersonal versus the devotees that are personal, like worshiping Krishna in his personal form? And Krishna says, well, the devotees that are worshiping me in the personal form are the most intimately connected with me and therefore the better ones. I think it captures precisely why, if you are a devotee that is more inclined to the impersonal aspect of divinity, you wouldn't necessarily understand chapter 12 being as powerful as it is. And therefore, having that notion that, oh, it's such a letdown to come from chapter 11 to then chapter 12 is kind of let down, right? It's like, oh, you saw the peak of the mountain. And then now from here is all the way down, is only down the hill. The bhaktas, which is to say the devotees that worship Krishna in a personal way, who reads this chapter, we are able to perceive an extraordinary amounts of compassion and love and the intricacies of a true, honorable, and deep relationship. They're all here in this chapter. That excites me a lot. And only if you are looking at this chapter through the eyes of somebody who is striving to establish a personal relationship with God, will you then realize the power of this chapter, which we are about to cover. But if you are more like a impersonal type of devotee, where you don't really conceive of Krishna as a person who loves you and that you can love, then yeah, it's like not that interesting. What are your thoughts on that, Kim?
Yeah, and just in case we have a listener who's listening for the first time, maybe you could go into a little more detail about the distinction between personal and impersonal and why it's such a pinnacle question.
Yes, so
Um,
in chapter 11, Arjuna asks Krishna, let me see you as you have entered the universe. Krishna previously had established himself as being the being from whom everything emanates. The entire energy that the universe is composed of comes from Krishna. It's logical, it's philosophical, because everything must come from something. We cannot justify in our experience in the world that there is something that comes from nothing. That is illogical. And therefore, the energy of the world, and that is to say the matter, right? So earth, water, fire, air, ether, etc. The mass, right? Like the mass, like there's a weight for earth, for the sun, etc. Where does it all come from? And Krishna had already established it comes from me. And so in this sense, Krishna is manifested throughout the entire universe. And Arjuna was very curious about that. Arjuna said, hey, let me see that. Let me see you in that form, in your universal form. And Krishna said, sure, because Krishna wasn't bluffing, when he made the statement, I am that from which everything comes. Arjuna had accepted, but then he was still curious. Like, no, I accepted fully, Krishna, you are that being. But now you have awakened within me this curiosity. So let me see it. And so Krishna wasn't bluffing. And he said, then here I am. And that is an impersonal form, because it is not Krishna you cannot conceive of any one person who has the form of the entire universe. So that is a impersonal form of Krishna, the way in which Krishna is manifested throughout the entire universe. You can certainly perceive the universe in that way and saying, yeah, it must come from something, it must come from Krishna, and in that way it is divine. Every single aspect of the universe is divine because it comes from Krishna. So you can certainly conceive of the universe this way. Nevertheless, it is a impersonal form. And there are many spiritualists who are attracted to this rather impersonal aspect of God. They worship the sun, they worship the ocean, and etc. So all these types of worship, they are not projected towards a person that has consciousness that you can be in a relationship with, in a loving relationship with. So that's the contrast. Whereas we, the personal devotees of Krishna, we understand Krishna to be the source of everything there is in his impersonal form, but we are more attracted and we are striving to love Krishna in his personal form as an actual person like me and you, Kim. And love is the force that binds us. And so that loving aspect of a personal deity is what personal devotees are interested in versus spiritualists that are more interested in an impersonal approach to their spiritual life. Is that clear, Kim?
Yeah. And even Buddhism would be a good example of impersonalism, where the ultimate nirvana or the ultimate goal, spiritual perfection, is you become merged with this one, I guess, energy. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. There are many divisions of Buddhism, as it is the case with most big religions. The majority of Buddhism, if you were to consider, all the different divisions and how they relate or differ, the majority of Buddhism, they go a step even further in the, I want to say, illogical, but not to be condescending, because they will say that not only there is this impersonal aspect of perfection in spirituality, which is ultimately impersonal. I say that that is illogical because if the ultimate reality, if the perfection of your spiritual path would lead to something that is impersonal, you would have to justify, well, let me take a step back here. Impersonal meaning that there is only one, like you said, energy, that the perfection of your spirituality would culminate into this one thing, this one energy that you are and I am, but due to our current illusion in material existence, we don't perceive ourselves as being that one thing. But then when we become perfect, we then shed away all these different layers of duality, thus merging into this oneness. And that oneness, that energy, that oneness is all there is. And it is the ultimate perfection. We say that that is impersonal because in order for there to be personalities, there has to be at least two things, two people. So then you have a personal relationship. But if the ultimate reality is just one thing, one energy, then you are, first of all, devoid of personal relationships because there's only one thing and there's not two. But also, I label it as illogical because you would have to then account for where does variety come from. If the ultimate reality is just one thing, and that is the perfection of all there is, and in our current existence, we perceive and experience a vast amounts of variety in how people differ from each other in their personality. And if the ultimate reality is just one devoid of any variation, it is an illogical conclusion that how could many different aspects of personalities, different varieties, come from something that ultimately does not have variety and differentiation within its perfect state. So therefore, I say that it is illogical because you cannot give personality from something that does not have personality. Uh, Now, Buddhism, most of Buddhism will go a step further in the illogical path. Again, not to be condescending, but talking about logic, where they say, even that oneness, even that one thing that is impersonal, that is the ultimate reality for impersonalists, even that thing doesn't exist in the ultimate reality. Nirvana means, nir means without, vana means energy, life. So nirvana actually means even that one thing that impersonalists strive for, they say that just that one thing exists, which is rather impersonal. In the ultimate reality of Buddhism, even that thing doesn't exist. There's nothing there. It is a void of everything, including that one thing that impersonalism strive for. So it's like even a step further into the illogical path, in my estimation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also heard an argument once that if you look at the way we are here on Earth and how we just clamor and strive to live, to exist, and the idea that the ultimate goal is to not exist does not seem logical to me. Now, one could argue that, oh, well, it's just because we're not advanced. But if we came from a single source, it makes sense to me that we would carry a lot of those qualities. And survival is such a major major, goal of the human existence. It just seems like a far-fetched idea to me that coming from an original source, that source would be no, the ultimate goal is to just not exist at all.
And precisely, and furthermore, there are many other illogical conclusions that one would arrive to. So let's say that aside from the Buddhism where nothing is there, let's go back to the impersonal aspect of the one ultimate existence. The question would then, oh, that one thing is God, right? But it's accepted that there's only that one thing, that we all are, and we all merge into that. One would ask, well, if in my perfect state, I am God, and so are you, and we are merged into one, why have we separated ourselves into many pieces that are now here suffering? What would the point of that be? That's like, what do we call people that enjoy pain?
Sadists or
masochism, sadist,
oh,
or
yeah,
like nihilism, right? Something like that. Like that would be a form of that. That would be a very mentally ill God. Like if I am God and I'm going to divide myself into many to just find myself here in this earthly existence where I suffer and I die and I get old and I have to endure diseases. Why is that? Why would God do that to himself? It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so Arjuna, having seen this form of Krishna, which is rather impersonal, and also coming from a culture where there were many spiritualists that did worship this impersonal aspect of Krishna, was then curious and asked Krishna, hey, I just saw this impersonal aspect of you. And I know there are many spiritualists that worship that path, but you've been talking to me so far in terms of having a relationship with you directly as a person, as a loving person. And so now I am curious. So which of these two devotees are best, are better positioned, are better situated? So that was the question that Arjuna opens chapter 12 with. So Kim, originally you asked to elaborate on the differences between impersonal goals versus personal goals in spiritual paths. Is that clear now?
Yeah, I think you've explained perfectly why this would be such a huge question, particularly at that time for Arjuna in his spiritual community. How you mentioned it's such a big topic of debate. Even now here in America, it's still such a huge topic of debate. Like, yeah, the idea of becoming one with some energy, some source or the universe versus there's one distinct being, a person with personality who can love. And yeah, it's just it's a huge question.
Right. And Arjuna's question wasn't really ego motivated. He wasn't asking, oh, who is best so that I can discriminate against those that are not best. He was truly wondering which are actually, the Sanskrit actually would translate better to English as Arjuna asking, which of these two devotees are better situated?
Hmm.
Not which one is best, but which one is better situated. For example, I want to go to India and I live in California. Well, I have a long trip ahead of me. Now, I can take an airplane and fly to India, or I can hitchhike to the Pacific and then get on a boat and make my way over there. I can do it. It's rather difficult, but it's possible, I suppose, if the boat is sufficiently sophisticated. And so the question would be, well, which of these two people with the common goal to go to India are better situated? Those traveling in the airplane or those walking to the Pacific and then getting on a boat and making their way on a boat to India? Like which of these two are better situated? That's what Arjuna's question better translate to. So he wasn't trying to discriminate, saying, oh, these people that are gonna walk to the Pacific and then get on a boat and go to India, they are nonsense and I'm going to discriminate against them. Arjuna was just wondering, well, which of these two are in a better position to get to India? So that was his question. And Krishna then answers that question in the beginning of chapter 12 by saying what, again, seems to have been already established. And that's why I can see that people that don't truly understand this division between personal versus personal would think that this is a let down type of chapter, because it's a question that seems to have been already answered, already obvious. And Arjuna is yet wondering again. In Arjuna's defense, hey, he just saw the impersonal aspect of Krishna. And in his culture, in his cultural context, there are many serious spiritualists that worship that form. So it's quite suitable for him to have that as a follow-up question. Which of these two are better situated? And Krishna just says it right away. Yeah, those that worship in a personal form, they are better situated. And Krishna substantiates why. He says, hey, if you worship the impersonal path, that path is more troublesome. It is more troublesome. Let's analyze that. In our experience in the material world, we have faced many, many difficulties. And we are going to continue to face many other difficulties in life, whether it is difficulties caused by material nature or by our own body and mind or by other people around us. Those are the three sources of misery, according to Krishna. So we have suffered them. How is it better for us to navigate this suffering, these challenges that we encounter in life? By having a person who is truly qualified to help you and be present before you, and with love and true knowledge, clearly speak to you and give you instructions, as opposed to you going outside, looking at the sun and worshiping the sun and saying, oh, almighty sun, I am your devotee. You are the almighty energy that provides light to the entire planetary system, solar system, and please help me navigate this situation that I find myself in. What kind of guidance are you going to give from that? It is an impersonal approach. There's not going to be anybody there to tell you anything. The sun is not going to come down here, manifest himself or herself as a person and speak to you. So in that sense, it is more troublesome. You don't have a person there to guide you, to help you, to love you, to have compassion, to show mercy, and that is ultimately capable of helping you. So for that reason, Krishna say, hey, those that are worshiping me personally, directly, are better situated because I love you and I'm actually God and I'm capable of helping you. And as we establish our personal relationship, I will be there to help you. You do your part, I do my part. Is the synergy between us is great. There's love there, and I'll help you ultimately. So you're better situated, as opposed to worshiping the wind or the universe, whatever that means. Like you're on your own, essentially. That's what that means. You're on your own. And so Krishna clearly answers that question right away and say, hey, those who worship me personally, they're better situated. And those that worship my impersonal aspect, Krishna even says, he doesn't, again, it's not a condescending thing. We are not discriminating against them, because Krishna says, ultimately, those that are worshiping me in the impersonal form, after a long time, after a lot of troubles, they're also going to realize me and come to me. So the end results are going to be the same, just like the analogy that I elaborated on earlier. If I get in an airplane to get to India, I'm going to get there way before you because you're just swimming in the Pacific Ocean. It's going to be more troublesome. You're going to have to fight against sharks. You're going to have to put up with a really good system to eat and have energy to go. And you're going to get there a lot later than me. So it's more troublesome. You're still going to get there, but it's more troublesome. So Krishna clearly says, no, if you are worshiping me in my personal form, it's better because I'm there with you and I'm helping you. And if you are worshiping me in the impersonal, it's going to be more troublesome. Eventually you're going to get to me, but it's more troublesome. So Krishna clears that doubt from Arjuna right away in the first, let's say, third of the chapter. And that question is answered. Boom, just said it very clearly. And Arjuna now, I'm sure that Arjuna already suspected, but again, he just wanted to clarify, and he got the answer clearly from Krishna. And then the other two-thirds of the chapter takes place. What do you think about so far?
Yeah, I really like how you mentioned, called out the point of better situated. It's not one's right, one's absolutely wrong. It's just what path up the mountain do you want to take? Or I liked your analogy about traveling to India. Yeah, you can do one path, you'll get there eventually. And so it makes perfect sense that Krishna would approach the topic with a lot of compassion and lack of any condescending tone, and just saying practically, hey, one path is better situated.
Like if you're going to run a marathon, who is better situated? The athlete running with some tricked out Nike shoes or the athlete running bare feet? Well, more power to you if you can run a marathon bare feet, because that's an accomplishment, it's an amazing fit that you're able to pull. More power to you, but it's going to certainly be more troublesome. The one athlete with the tricked out Nike shoes or Adidas or Reebok, whatever, they're better situated. That's all there is. It's gonna be a little bit easier for them, you know.
Yeah.
If you're gonna run bare feet, you go for it. But hey, good luck. So then, again, talking about if you understand Krishna as a person, if you relate to Krishna in love as two people loving each other, that the two-thirds of the chapter that remains becomes extremely powerful, and is going to be really well highlighted if we actually read the texts. It will be captured so nicely. So Kim, would you mind reading from text 8 to 12?
Okay, text 8. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt. My dear Arjuna, a winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action, for by such renunciation one can attain peace of mind.
So these texts together, as you just read them, I think really captures and highlights what we've been discussing so far. Here we have God, the Supreme Person, giving us the ultimate goal. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus, you will live in me always, without a doubt. Now, anybody who reads this text and says, yeah, okay, I'm going to do that, is a neophyte spiritualist. Sorry to be so blunt, but that's who you are. The reason why is because to fix your mind upon something is an incredible difficult task. Only a person who has never tried to control the mind will think, yeah, I can do it. You're certainly going to be biting off more than you can chew. So then it will show that you are neophyte spiritualist. It's great that you're reading the Gita and that you have the intention to do it, but you're not going to do it. It's simply not going to do it. To tame the mind, to control the mind, to fix your mind always in anything, it is a extremely difficult task. I mean, even Arjuna complained about that earlier in the Gita when Krishna had already told Arjuna, just think about me all the time. Arjuna was like, hey, I think that to control my mind in this way is even harder than control the wind. How can we control the wind? With our two hands, we're going to stop the wind from flowing. You cannot do that. Arjuna used that analogy. I think that to control my mind is more difficult than to stop the wind, right? So it is a very, very, very difficult thing to do. However, it is the goal that that Krishna is giving us. Just fix your mind upon me. Like, that's the goal of meditation. You fix your mind on something, except in the devotees in our path, that something that we fix in our mind upon is Krishna. But we were talking about Buddhism earlier, Kim. They try to fix their mind on nothing. And like, really? Can you really fix your mind on nothing? Or the impersonalists, they try to fix their mind on the oneness. But the idea is to fix the mind, which implies you must have controlled your mind in order to be able to fix your mind upon the object of meditation. That is an incredibly thing to do, incredibly difficult thing to accomplish. You have to be a very mature, very senior, very seasoned spiritualist in order to have that much control over your mind. However, that's what Krishna is saying here. It says, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. All, not just part of it. In the other part, you go invest in the stock market and make a lot of money and purchase some real estate and a boat and enjoy yourself. He said, no, all your intelligence upon me and fix your mind upon me. That's a really high goal. Now, what happens after that in chapter 9? Krishna says, but hey, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then do this other thing, follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, and in this way develops a desire to attain me. What have we just witnessed here? We have witnessed a God that is knowledgeable, that truly cares about us and gives us the best remedy for our suffering and our dilemma in this material world. Just fix your mind upon God always, and in that way you're going to achieve perfection. So that's a person with knowledge that can tell you what is the actual ultimate goal of life. But then he's now displaying his mercy. He's not shutting the door on you. If you are that neophyte spiritualist aspiring to attain the highest goal, well, then you either can do that or you cannot. And if you cannot, you go to hell forever? No, not Krishna. Krishna is not that God. Krishna is now saying, hey, but if you can do that, which is a really high goal, then do this other thing, which is still high, but slightly easier, which is to follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. And I think, we've already discussed that, what that means. And that also comes with a certain degree of difficulty. And then how does Krishna follow up to that text? He says, if you cannot practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Because by working for me, you come to the perfect state. What are we witnessing here again? Again, only a devotee, only a personal devotee, only a spiritualist who is striving to know God personally, as a person, and love that God. What are you witnessing here? You're witnessing a God who is extremely merciful. He already gave you what the goal is. And if you can't do that, then do this other thing that is slightly easier, and it's still going to give you the ultimate perfection. And if you can't do that, then do this other thing, which is yet slightly easier. That's an extraordinary amount of compassion and understanding and care and love and knowledge, because all these other paths that he's making available, they are lesser, but they still take you to the perfect state. That's what he just said on text 10. Then do this other thing, which by doing this other thing, you're still going to be perfect. That's amazing. He's not like, imagine the relationship between a boss and an employee. Well, your position description is to do X, Y, Z for the company. That's it. Now try not to do X, Y, Z and see what happens to you. You're fired. That's it. No boss is going to come to you and say, according to your position description, you're supposed to be doing X. But hey, if you can't really do X, we'll take Y. And hey, if you can't do Y, we'll take whatever. And if you can't do that other whatever, we'll also take this other thing. Just do something. And we're still going to pay you on time. We're still going to give you other raises. It's still going to be perfect. I'm just that cool of a boss. Who will find that? You're never going to find that. But here's Krishna, the supreme person, the boss of all bosses, the Lord of Lords, telling us, hey, this is the ultimate goal. But if you can't do that, then do this other thing. And if you can do that, then do this other thing. And then there is more. Chapter 11. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, Then try to act, giving up your all results of your work and try to be self-situated. That's like yet another scale down. And there's more. And 12, if you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. Better than meditation is renunciation. For if you are able to that, you can have peace of mind. Like, if I am going to engage in a personal relationship with somebody who is able to tell me what the most perfect, ultimate goal of life is, I'm already convinced because the person has true knowledge. I'm already wanting to establish a really good relationship with that person because the person has true knowledge. But then they're not going to judge me if I can't do that, and they're still going to give me another way in which I can still become perfect, and then another, and then another, and then another, and then another. That person truly loves me because they're giving me all benefit of the doubts that maybe you can do this, and then I'm going to tell you this other thing that you can also do. That person truly cares about me. We are now witnessing what this personal relationship is like with the Supreme Person. He's merciful, he's knowledgeable, he's patient, he's tolerant, and he's truly caring about us. He's not leaving us stranded if we are not able to achieve that higher goal. He's still there with us. And you can only perceive that if you are striving for a personal relationship with the Supreme Person.
Yeah, it just blows my mind that a sliding scale even exists. Like, that was such a good analogy about the job at work with your boss, or a romantic relationship. Like, who in this world tolerates, uh, holds this space of love, just waiting for you to advance step by step, and is so forgiving and merciful? It's amazing.
Extraordinary, amazing. And again, these are the ramifications of a personal relationship. Somebody that really cares about you, is able to give you good instructions and tolerate your shortcomings and still be there for you and elaborate on different paths that may be suitable for you. That's an amazing thing. We're not going to find that at the workplace or even at the wedding. Like, when you take vows to your spouse, it's like, hey, um, I shall never engage in illicit sex. But if you cannot do that, if you're so lusty, you can still do it. Just don't let me see it. Or if you don't can do that, if you're gonna do it in the house where I may see it, then don't let me hear it. Or if you can't do that, then at least don't let our children see it. It's like, really? Like, who's gonna talk to you like that? Right?
Yeah.
But here's the Supreme Person giving us all these ways in which we can fall in love with him ultimately. And that's to be truly appreciated in a relationship. And that was the second third of the chapter. Now, the last section, it differs, right? So this is the sliding scale. And then now Krishna shifts gear a little bit. And that starts on text 13. So I'll read from 13 to 20 so that we can get the understanding of what this section of this chapter is like, and then we'll comment on it. So text 13, again, from 13 to 20, I'll read it all together. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, and it is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. I truly appreciate and I truly enjoy, it inspires me. It makes me honor the Gita even more. It does, like, it gives goosebumps in my body when I read the section because there's so much here. First of all, if you are in a relationship with somebody and it's that person's birthday, let's say, and that person happens to be like a nature loving person, and you are a technology loving person, and you think, well, today is that person's birthday. I'm going to buy them a new laptop or like an Apple Watch, and I'm going to give them that gift. That says something about you. You truly don't know the person who you are in a relationship with because that person loves nature. They don't like technology that much. You should buy them. You should instead organize a camping trip where you go like to Big Bear or you go out in nature and you spend your time out camping in the forest somewhere. That's what that person would like, not what you like. The technology gadgets is what you like. You should not buy that to give to the person who loves nature. Not to say, obviously, that people who love nature don't like technology. Just with this analogy here, most likely a person who is a nature lover would appreciate more going out camping rather than getting a new laptop. And so these are the intricacies, again, of a personal relationship. And so it is best that you know what that person likes so that you can better please that person. And here, Krishna is giving us an insight in what he likes. He's telling us again and again. At the end of each verse I just read, he would say, people who act in this way, people who have these qualities, they are very dear to me. Well, if your ultimate goal is to truly be in a deep, loving relationship with Krishna, you would be best to act in a way that pleases your lover. If you are the beloved of your lover, then you should please your lover in a way that they would want to be pleased. And Krishna here is giving us this wealth of information. What are the things that we can do that would please him? So that's reason number one why I like this section of the Gita. Krishna is just offering us. He's just giving all the information. What must we do in order for God to like us? In order for us to become dear to Krishna? Reason number two, why I really appreciate this section of this chapter is that I'll touch on a few things. These are qualities, ultimately, to neither lament nor desire, to neither rejoice or grieve, to be equipoised in both happiness and distress, and to be equipoised with honor and dishonor. So these are actually qualities. So now let's analyze that. If somebody honors you, you like that person. Like, why wouldn't you? Again, we're talking about personal relationships here. If somebody shows up in a room where you are and there's other people and they start praising you, Oh, Kim, you're such an expert at everything you do. You're so kind. You're so loving. I truly honor and admire you. How does that make you feel? That makes you
Pretty
feel good.
good.
That makes you feel pretty good. You're going to like that person because that person is honoring you. Now, somebody walks in and say, in a room full of people where you're present, you know what, Kim? It was really not nice that you stood me up. We were supposed to meet each other. You left me hanging. You never even called me to let me know what was going on. I was waiting for you for an hour. How dare you do that? You are a person that is unreliable. You are a hypocrite because you keep on saying all this spiritual stuff, but you cannot even live up to your own commitments. You're a hypocrite. You're not to be trusted. You are an unreliable person. And you know what? Hey, everybody, look out. Don't trust this person. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I'd be enraged. I'd want to prove them wrong. Yeah,
And they're
distance myself
all
from them.
and there are all kinds of anger and hate that is going to bubble up inside of you
Hmm.
in your hearts, and you're going to be
Yep.
all bent out of shape. You're going to be blind. You're going to react. You're going to speak loudly, and you're going to engage in an argument. All hell is going to break loose, essentially,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
So now Krishna is now here saying, hey, you know what? Be the same in both, in honor and dishonor. Is that easy? That's not easy. That's not easy at all, because to not be so elated when somebody's honoring you is a difficult task too. Your ego is going to be all bubbly if somebody's praising you. You're going to feel, yeah, I'm that good, I'm so reliable. I'm like an expert at everything I do, and I'm so kind. People should love me, and you're going to feel good. And then when somebody's doing the opposite, you're going to feel bad. And that's very difficult to control those emotions, those energies, those impulses ultimately. I mean, even our neurology comes into play here. When you are in these circumstances, your brain is literally producing chemicals that unleashes in your cardiovascular system that makes you feel these things. That rage, that anger starts at your brain. Your brain is producing all these things that makes you feel that way. It's difficult to control that. Similarly, when somebody is praising you, like you get all endorphins released in your system, and then you feel good about that, and it's difficult to control that too. So that being the case, why should I try to do it? It's such a difficult task. It takes a lot of courage for you to remain equipoised when somebody is dishonoring you. It takes a lot of courage. It's a very difficult task. Why should you do it? What is the impetus? For what reason would you do it? It is discouraging when you are faced with enough suffering, if you're faced with enough challenges. You may give up. Life can become very, very hard and very, very discouraging. And you may say, you know what, it's not worth it. I give up. I'm discouraged. I can become depressive now. I can become suicidal even. What's the point in living if all I'm faced with is confusion and suffering and hatred and all of that? Why would you do it? Again, I go back to, if we hold Krishna in our relationship at the highest, the pinnacle of our lives, that which guides all of our other actions in life, if that's the case, I now have a reason to do it. Now I am equipped with all the motivation, with all the intention, the desire, the impetus for me to actually fight and be equipoised in both circumstances, because that's going to please Krishna, because that's going to allow Krishna to see me as a person that he holds dear. And to me, that's enough motivation. I have now all the reasons why I should control myself in such a challenging situation. When anger is in my heart, why should I control myself? Why shouldn't I put that person in that place? Like you said, Kim, you probably yell back and say, hey, and you start defending yourself. But Krishna is saying, hey, you know what? Remain equipoised. Why should you control yourself? It's a difficult job. Well, you should do that, because if you do that, what's on the other side is that you're going to be a person who is very dear to Krishna. And to me, that's worthwhile. That arms me with enough intention, motivation. It allows me to remain. It allows me to remain focused at the goal, at the prize. I'm doing it for Krishna. I'm controlling myself. I'm not giving in to anger because I want Krishna to think of me as a person that he feels dear to him, and that is worth it. Why that is the motivation why I would do it. And that is so powerful because yes, there is this benefit that Krishna is going to think of us as being dear to him, but also who benefits from this? Krishna? Nah, Krishna already has that quality. He's already not bent out of shape if somebody is talking bad about God. He's okay. He already attained that position. The person that ultimately benefits from this quality the most is ourselves, because now we don't have to experience hate and anger and inconsistency in life. One day you're super happy, it's Friday, yoo-hoo. The other day you're super depressed, it's Monday, I gotta go put up with my boss again. And you live your life in these ups and downs, and you're just not rooted into anything, and therefore you are dominated by everything, and you don't have any substance. That's a terrible life to live. And if you attain these qualities, not only you become dear to Krishna, but you are actually sane, and you now actually have peace of mind, and your life itself is easier for you. So it's a win-win. And that is very, very motivating, because you have to have a big motivation to fight against things that are difficult. And that is a big motivation that I need. And I think that helps any other person who truly meditate on these topics as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it really speaks to this perception of duality where there's black and white in this world, right or wrong, happiness, distress, fear and anxiety. And I do a lot of counseling with people who have a lot of anxiety. And it really boils down to this idea of not being lovable and having this fear of rejection, fear of being on the outs with your community, with your partner, with your family. It's such a deep, deep fear. And if we look at this chapter as a whole and how Krishna is so loving, giving us a sliding scale for wherever we are, it doesn't matter where you are. And then identifying, hey, all these things that put you into distress, this system of duality, to step back from that and move away from this idea that we are the doer. Like we're the reason people don't love us. We're the reason that people will love us. It's what we do. And, that puts so much responsibility on a person when they feel that, I did something wrong. Or, when we start to move away from that idea and see Krishna as the ultimate doer, so to speak, Krishna, everything being tied to Krishna, and the ultimate love, unconditional love, from Krishna, to be able to then be more at peace with this idea that, oh, is it suffering, or is there another way I can look at quote unquote suffering in my life? So I love this chapter as a whole, just the way it started out and the way it ends. It just speaks to this relationship that's just waiting for us if we choose to engage in it.
Absolutely. Very well said, Kim. And thank you for sharing your experiences in counseling too, because what that does is it takes the philosophy of the Gita away from the religious bubble, and it puts it out there as a tool that anyone can embrace, whether or not
Mm-hmm.
you even believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly a theistic philosophy here. However, you can also take God out of it if God doesn't do for you, and follow these principles and still have a much better life than what the contrary would have been, a life full of anxiety like you're sharing. And so, yeah, so thank you for sharing that insight that you bring in is very valuable. The other way in which this last section of this chapter really speaks to me, and I hinted at that already, but I want to now fully elaborate on it, is that think about friends you have. think about the friends that you truly honor, that you know and you have. I would be willing to bet that part of your attraction to a friend, to a person that you really honor, is because you have been able to identify in that person a quality that you admire, obviously, but that you also possess and honor. So, for example, if you are a person who likes to study philosophy, spirituality, etc., and you now meet somebody who is also super into that, well, now you have that thing in common. And it is a really good possibility that your relationship is going to develop in a positive direction. And anything else, let's say if you really make a point to show up on time for your meetings, let's say, and then now you meet somebody who says, and I'm going to be there at 8 o'clock. And the person shows up like at 8:35. You like, I don't like that because I'm so, like, I honor being punctual. I honor being on time. And if the person is not, at one point it's going to create a conflict in your relationship. But now you meet somebody and it's your first encounter and say, hey, we're going to meet up at 8. And you show up at 7:55 because that's your nature. And the person was there 7:55 as well. You're like, oh, that's so nice. That's so relieving. Like, here's a quality that I have that has helped me. And therefore I try to use that in life. And there's this person who also has that. And I can count on that person now to, as far as this particular aspect of our relationship is concerned, it's a match. And the more of this match there is, the more deep your relationship with the person will become, because you have all these things in common now. Do you agree with this analysis, Kim, so far?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's someone who's easily relatable.
It's really easily relatable because you have all these things in common, right? And then your relationship is very well positioned to develop in a very positive way, right?
Yes.
Okay. So now let's look at this. When Krishna say all these things, if you tolerant in both happiness and distress, honor and dishonor, if you treat everybody the same, and if you equipoise, if you're normal, right? If you are equipoised, then you're very dear to me. Why is Krishna saying that? Is he saying that because, hey, I'm God and it is in your interest that I like you? So do this thing so that I like you, because otherwise you go to hell forever, right? Is that the reason why Krishna is saying that? No, it is not. That is why we spent the time in the beginning of this recording differentiating understanding God personally versus understanding God impersonally. If you understand God personally, you would then know that the reason why Krishna is saying this to us, that we're going to become dear to him, is because he's a person. And just like us, if we encounter somebody that possesses the same qualities that we do, we get attracted to them. So Krishna is doing nothing but explaining to us how he is. He possesses all these qualities. He is that person who is not put into difficulty by anyone, who is equipoising happiness and distress, fear and anxiety. He is the person who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities. He's pure, he's expert, he's free from all pains. He's not striving for some results. He's God, he has everything already. He neither rejoices or grieves, he neither laments or desires. He's renounced of both auspicious and inauspicious things. He's equal to friends and enemies, which is to say, even if you're blaspheming God, he's still equal to you, and he still opened the doors for you to engage in a loving relationship with him. He's equipoising honor and dishonor, heat or cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy. He's always free from contaminating association. He's satisfied, he's fixed in knowledge, and he follows this imperishable path himself. So these are his qualities. And then now he's saying, and if you have those qualities, just like we would, if we are able to identify the qualities that we hold dear to ourselves in others, we become attracted to them, and that person becomes very dear to us. Krishna is saying, look, do these things because this is how I am. I'm a person. And if you do this, if you develop these qualities, then you're going to become dear to me. It is only natural. These are the ramifications of a person. We act this way because we are people. We are persons. And so is God. And he has these qualities. And he's letting you know, hey, become like that. Forget about all the ignorance born in your heart that makes you perceive pains and pleasure, heat and cold, happiness and distress, honor and dishonor, perceiving these things like you put it, Kim, of you being the doer and that it depends on you. And like, forget about all that. Just go back to your own nature, a spiritual being. And you are situated in the nature, you will find that these qualities are there within you. That's who you are. So Krishna is urging us, start acting that way again, because then you're going to become very dear to me. And then the reciprocation in our relationship, the synergy between our relationship is going to increase, it's going to enhance. And that's the goal of bhakti, that we develop bigger, deeper love for each other. So you must be a personal devotee. You must be worshiping God as a person in order to understand the intricacies of this chapter, such as this one. Krishna is telling us to do that because it's best for us, because he is like that, and our love can flourish if we embrace our true nature, which is God's nature.
Wow. Yeah, that was a amazing point. I really appreciated that. Getting back to this pure souls theology where we believe at the soul level everyone is pure, and the idea of spirituality in our path being remembering Krishna, getting back to who we are, versus, you know, Christianity where they believe that you're born evil. In the first 30 seconds you've already sinned somehow. So it's yeah, I really like that perspective of, hey, we already have it in us. It's just a matter of rediscovering who we are, remembering, going back to our fundamental nature.
Right. Because also, you know, honor and dishonor. Okay, if you're so caught up in it, you truly forgot who you are. Because if you're being honored in the world, and if you really let your ego be super pumped up because of that, what happens when you die? Where does that honor go? Like in a previous part, I oftentimes I like to bring this up. I like Roman and Greek philosophy, and so you know, we know that the Roman Empire at once covered the vast majority of the entire European continent, and it was perhaps the biggest land on earth. And the emperor desire is what must happen, and he was the most powerful man in the world. Like we said, the president of the United States right now is the most powerful person in the world. It is, but there's also Vladimir Putin. He's also pretty powerful. There is, you know, Prime Minister of China. Those people, they're pretty powerful people. Roman Emperor, like, he was it. He was a very powerful person, and the Roman Empire was a very big empire. And what was his name? What was Rome's last emperor's name? Do you know?
No.
Yeah, and it's been like less than 2,000 years, because, you know, one of them killed Christ, and that was 2,020 years ago. So it's like 2,000 years, which is quite nothing compared to, you know, if we study how long the earth has been around, is in the billions of years. We're talking about 2,000 years, and the most honorable person, the emperor, the Roman emperor, 2,000 years later after his death, we don't even know his name. So what's the point of that honor that we are so elated about? Somebody comes and praises us for what? Like, I'm not the Roman emperor. Nobody can praise me that much, you know? And what is this honor that I may have? That somebody may tell me something that made me elated. What is that good for? If it's like, if it took 2,000 years for us to forget the Roman emperor's name, it's probably going to take 2 years for people to forget my name, you know? And what is all the honor all about after I die? And similarly, the dishonor. Somebody comes over here, curses me and accuses me of whatever, insults me because of my skin color, whatever it may be. If I get so bent out of shape about that, if I get so angry about that as to curse at the person and yell and this and that, again, 2 years after my death, what is the point of that? Nobody's even going to remember what that at one point there was this guy and he got all bent out of shape and he got all full of anxiety. So what's the point of honor and dishonor in the material world if we are spiritual, pure spiritual beings? We are pure spiritual beings. Honor and dishonor in the material world means nothing because we die and those things will vanish in time.
Yeah.
And so going back to the point you made, Kim, we are pure spiritual souls. And this philosophy, it's reawakening that which is already within us. And Krishna is showing us how he is encouraging us to become like that because that's natural. A person would do that. And that's bhakti for a devotee who is better situated, looking at Krishna and worshiping Krishna as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to sum up the chapter, as we are at the end of our episode here, I just really appreciate all of your insights into this chapter. Really made it come alive, and always applying it to our life. You always give such wonderful examples. And in text 8 through 11, 8 through 12, also this sliding scale gives us a good idea of where we are, for one, and how we shouldn't be jumping 2 steps ahead. Like, I just learned about the Bhagavad Gita today, and I'm going to now follow the regular principles, stop drinking, no sex, no gambling, jump into that before I'm ready. Or jump into a ton of devotional service before I'm ready, and then become bitter and then walk away from Krishna consciousness altogether. I can train my mind, no problem. I'm just going to jump to that step. And so this idea of knowing and being honest about where we are, and it may be a neophyte, but knowing that that's great according to Krishna, where you're on the right path, and acceptance of where we are. We all like to think we're more Zen than we are, but being able to come into acceptance of that because Krishna is an acceptance of that. It's really reassuring to me. So.
Wonderful point. Very, very wonderful point. Very expert point. Because jumping too deep too soon, you're going to burn yourself and get out. So it's a very, very powerful point. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we covered chapter 12 very nicely. Next week we'll be into chapter 13. So thank you to Deo for your time, and thank you to everyone who listened, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
Thank you, Kim, for your time. Haribol.
Yeah, Haribol.